Welcome to another Mindcraft video cast. We're at Champlain College today, and I'm with the delightful Kaylee Sullivan. And yeah, Kaylee is our, I'm gonna get this right, Community Content and Communications Goddess Manager.
Correct.
Goddess Manager. No, and I've actually frequently referred to Kaylee as a goddess because she is, and you're gonna find out shortly because she's got a big job here on this gorgeous campus. So here we go. So how about, Kaylee, how about you tell us first about what you do?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for that introduction. I'm gonna add goddess to my business card now.
Please do.
Yeah, so community content communications manager, what does that actually mean? It means I oversee and run our social media channels here at Champlain. So wide array of Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Discord, you name it, we've tried it at some point. So running those now along with a team of other people and helping with student communications as well. So getting the word out to students about different resources, programs that are available in a variety of different ways.
Excellent, Kaylee. And Kaylee and I were having a chat right before this, and I like to think personally with 5 young adults that I was fluent in young adult, but then I found out pretty quickly not so much because Instagram is really, I think, the biggest of them, right?
Yeah.
And so, Kaylee, maybe in a broad sense, because I know that I think most people are aware on some level, maybe some not so much, but social media really has a paradox to it, right? Because it's a way to connect, yet in some ways we've never been more disconnected with it. So it's kind of like you and I were saying, we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So maybe let's start with some of the positives. Feel free to relate it what you're doing with what you're doing on campus, or some of the positives of social media and reaching young adults.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the two biggest positives I always say about social media is one, it is a community building tool, right? You're keeping in touch with people, you could be meeting people on social media. And then the second thing is that it's a place to share information. So especially with younger audiences, if you want them to be paying attention to something, it has to be on social media. And while I say younger audiences, like that probably has broadened in the past couple of years as well. You see more of our older demographic on Facebook, Twitter, as well. So it really, the age could depend on the platform, but the reality is almost everyone's on social media these days.
So what you're saying is like Facebook is for old people, right?
Kind of, yes.
No, I'm laughing with Kelly because my kids will say that, and they just roll their eyes. And they helped me with a reel the other day, and they're like,
well, I mean, it's true. Younger people are not creating Facebook accounts anymore.
Right,
They
right.
are on Instagram, they are on TikTok. So we've also had to change our ways of how we're reaching high school students. And most of that's going to be through Instagram and TikTok, but also Discord is a new way we are kind of doing that community building.
Now, here's a good question for you. Why is kind of Instagram, I feel like Instagram is like the crack for young adults, you know what I mean? And also I know TikTok too, but what about those particular, attracts, pulls them in? What is it?
It's more visual, so you have to share a photo or a video with your post, and that's kind of the first thing. And the secondary thing is the caption, right? Whereas on Facebook or Twitter, it's all mostly words. Like you can share photos on those platforms, but it's not the main thing. Like those are more link sharing platforms, whereas Instagram, it's like, show me something pretty, show me something that's going to get me to want to get out there and go adventure, bling bling, exactly. It's
like a shiny object thing. I'm wondering, Kaylee, too, because with the internet, it's not like this has just been the last few years, but it seems like bandwidth is shrinking. Might that be part of that quick fix? Maybe.
What do you mean by bandwidth?
Attention span.
Oh, yes.
So I think of back in the day, when dinosaurs roamed and, glaciers were shifting, and I was a teenager, this didn't even exist, right? But we could pay attention for a much longer time. And I'm wondering if part of the young adult culture has a shortened, like in general, they need that instant grat, maybe, do you think?
Absolutely. I think no one wants to read a long form piece anymore, right? It's very much like you've got 5 to 10 seconds to grab someone's attention with something that's like very visual. You know, you like what you're looking at and you want to continue looking at it for a few more seconds. But that's really it. That's the time you have to grab them.
Wow. And I was, making, kind of light with Kaylee, but she really is a marketing goddess, because think of what you're saying too, though, from a marketing standpoint, which I know is part of the whole picture, right?
Yeah.
And Kaylee and I have had talks about this before, because she's packaged all kinds of stuff up that I've done. You can have the best content or the best event happening or the best, but if it's not packaged properly, no one knows about it. It's not going to happen. So you've got a really tricky, it sounds like a tricky window where you grab them or you don't. Yeah. So what do you think when you're trying to figure out that window, what goes into that? But let's just say it's like let's say it's like at the Halloween dance or something like that. What do you do in 15? That to me, that's like a sneeze.
I mean, I think it is a sneeze. Again, going back to the visuals.
Yeah.
So like, what is going to pull someone in right away, and how can you feature as many people and things in those seconds as possible? So can you feature 10 students in their costumes super quickly?
I see.
I do think another aspect too is people always like to learn something on social media, even if it is super quick. Not quite sure there's a ton you're going to learn at a Halloween dance, but
right.
It's an event where you are community building, you are meeting people and connecting. So like those are kind of the main themes that you would want to get out in those 15 seconds. Like, how are people connecting at this event?
No, that's excellent. I'm thinking, people are still rolling the pandemic into lots of conversations still, even though we like to all think it's behind us.
Yeah.
But obviously our young adults, and I had mostly first years, right, teaching here, but really that means they lost 2 years of high school basically. And so it is different because they got so used to being isolated and stuff. So are you seeing what you're doing with the social media? Are you seeing it as being kind of like effective with getting them together and pulling them to actually be together in person?
Yeah, definitely. I think, well, first of all, we're just seeing greater numbers at these in-person events, obviously, than we have the past few years, because people are feeling more comfortable to go out and be around one another again. But the pandemic, in an interesting way, also helped increase our audiences on our social media platforms, because when everyone was at home and they weren't able to be in the classroom or at these in-person events, they were relying on social media to figure out what was going on and to get the information, right? Like, everything was digital. And so we saw an uptick of how people were using even just our Champlain College social media channels to get that information. And now that aids us 2 years later, when people actually are in person, and they can go back to those original ways of finding information, posters on campus, word of mouth, things like that. But now we have these mechanisms in place where, like, people know on a Monday we're going to share the top 10 events of that week happening on our Instagram story, and they're going to be able to see that and decide, I want to go to that, and then go.
Right. It's because the rumor on the street is that our events guy Jared had 400 something students at the Halloween, so it's working, right? It's clearly working. Yeah. Also, too, I'm wondering. This just came into my head this minute, Kaylee. I know there was some effort that you put in. I'm sure I know you have student workers too, that kind of through the pandemic, taking pictures of campus and Burlington, and do you think that when students are going through all this, it may have provided some comfort, when, like, we haven't forgotten about you kind of thing, or tell us about that.
We called it like bringing Burlington to you, right? So if you can't be here, here are some reminders of like what your Champlain home is. And while it may look very empty without people in it, like, the campus and the people here do miss you. We all miss being together, and we can't wait to all be together again. And it's pretty exciting to now be at that point where everyone is back together. I mean, this past orientation was a huge testament to that. Just like,
it was good.
Most people are maskless, and you see smiles and a lot of energy. And that stuff is some of my favorite stuff to capture on social media, because it's just that excitement of a new beginning, people coming together. Yeah.
Oh, I totally agree. I think you and I have talked about this, Kaylee, but the first week, so I've been teaching for like 12 or whatever, I don't even know, it's so good, I don't keep track, but like the first week, especially with first years for me, they have their new backpacks and their new clothes and they're like big eyes, you know, and then they're like bookends, and then graduations, I'm like, what happened to our babies? They all grew up, and it's just, to see all the buzz of campus, and also all the well-being stuff that I did for orientation too. It was such a huge, that wellness fair, packed. It was so packed, it made me so happy. Signing up for all different things, and it was just really, really good. So, okay, so now that's a good segue. So we know, and anybody knows me knows that I'm the cell phone police in the classroom. They are turned off and they're under their chairs.
That's great.
There will be no attention pulling you out of anywhere. And I'll ask them, and the class is only 100 minutes, is only an hour and 15 minutes, right? And so what can you do in that hour and 15 minutes about anybody who's trying to contact you? And they kind of look around. And I said, what if Aunt Tessie's in the hospital? And they look around. I said, not to sound cold-hearted, but Aunt Tessie's safe because she's in the hospital. Turn it off. All of it can wait. And that's the first week. Then they start to forget. You know, so it's kind of funny that there's this paradox, because look at all this positive that you've got 400 whatever students to the dance. We're getting them in person via Instagram mainly, right? For the most part. I know the other ones also. But now there's also the part that, of course, we as young and seasoned adults are able to manage a little more. But what about the paradox where that it can serve as a black hole that pulls them in?
Oh yeah. I mean, we've all been on our phones just scrolling.
Then an hour went by.
What we're doing, right? Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's inevitable when it comes to social media, and I feel like you have to learn the hard way before you start to set those boundaries of like, how are you going to detach? Especially for me, it is my full-time job. Like, social media is my all-day long gig. And so I've had to really learn about how to then create those boundaries, especially for my personal life, and when am I using social media outside of work as well. So
how do you do it? Because that sounds hard, honestly.
Yeah, it's hard.
Even at 57, I'm not as like, that just sounds hard, because I just have to tell you quickly, because I know Kaylee will laugh, because Kaylee gave me a tutorial for the well-being channel that we're doing, and it's been like the joke in my house. Mom's Insta addicted. It was like 3 days. Yeah. Because it's like crack. So how do you manage? Tell us what you do to keep that boundary up.
Yeah, I feel like I've learned over time, you know, what I'm doing now is not what I did 2 or 3 years ago. But I have all notifications for social media turned off on my phone so that I'm not like constantly getting alerts. Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, like I have one social media app that actually brings all of our messages into that one app, so I'm not looking at 10 different apps.
You mean for the Champlain one?
For Champlain, it's not my personal stuff, but that way I know if I do need to check Champlain's channels, it's one app. I can look through, okay, nothing's of alert, I can let it be, or okay, this is urgent, let me take care of this now. But I don't have any notifications set up on my personal accounts either. That way, if someone's liking a photo, someone's trying to message me, like, I just let everyone know, if you need to reach me, please text or call me and I will answer, but social media is not the answer here. I also have screen time limits set up on my phone, so come 9 o'clock, my phone doesn't allow me to get into social media. And then it's all the way until 7 a.m. And that's more to make sure that like it's not the first thing I look at when I wake up in the morning, and then it's not the last thing I look at when I go to bed.
That's huge.
It is huge, and again, that's more recent. Like,
right.
I kind of learned that was necessary. And again, if I need to get on social media for work at 9:30 p.m. for whatever reason, if something's urgent, I can just bypass.
But you're in control of it.
And it goes, but I'm aware of what I'm doing, and I'm not just scrolling. And again, that doesn't happen very often where, it's 9:30, 10 at night and I need to be on there for work. But so that's nice. My favorite thing about detaching from social media is 1 or 2 weeks out of the year, I'll take a week-long vacation and completely delete social media from my phone.
I think that is amazing.
Yeah. I love it. Work, personal, all of it is gone. And then that way I'm not even tempted to go on those
channels. Right, because it's just not there.
And I have a very like detailed coverage plan in place at work, and people are aware that I am gone for the week, and here's the people you contact in this scenario or this scenario.
And we support that here.
Yeah,
too.
absolutely.
Like people are like good about it.
Yes, and I think it's special to have a community that does support the well-being aspect of work in that way, because not every place would do that.
Or they fake do it.
True.
You know, because I don't mean to interrupt you, Kat, but I think you'll agree, because we do have it. I think probably both of us just wouldn't say anything, but it wasn't. But it really is good here. Like they're like, good for you, go to the Adirondacks or whatever.
Yeah.
But sometimes at people's places of employment, I know from friends of ours who are not in higher ed or specifically here, but they're out, doing corporate things or hospitality or whatever, and they'll say that, but it's not real, because if you actually did put up a boundary and listen and called in well, because you're fried, you're not even really sick, but you're fried, and we would say good for you. If that bumps up against something that's seemingly important, you could lose out on a promotion, or it'd be like this quiet little, that's not written anywhere, but you would screw yourself, basically, like a better way to say it. But here, not so much, right?
Yeah.
So you go and you turn off all notifications.
Oh, I just delete it from my phone.
Delete it from your phone. So you can't even get on it. Okay, so I'm curious. You decide what you want to share with us.
Yeah.
What's it like the first day when it's, wow, look at that bird. Squirrel.
The first day is always weird because I'm still we do it subconsciously. We open up our phone and we go to click on an app not even knowing we're doing it, right? And so I'll find myself doing that and I'll be like, oh, there's nothing fun to look at on here. And then actually I have to be like, okay, I'm going to set my phone down now, and how else am I going to spend my time?
So kind of like an awareness of where the time's going.
Yes, definitely.
Valuable life minutes.
Valuable life minutes, and I find myself mostly spending it, I'll be doing more reading, spending more time outside, actually paying attention to what I'm putting my time into versus I feel like sometimes we're half paying attention to something and then half on our phone scrolling and not really giving either thing our full attention.
And there goes life.
We love to multitask, right?
Which isn't real, right? Yeah. It's just a quick shift in attention. You can't do two things at once, which I know you're aware of, and it seems like we are. But we're really just zip, zip, zip.
Yeah. My favorite part though is always afterwards, after that 1 week vacation, when I do re-download all of those apps, keeping in mind, okay, here's the things I just learned from that vacation, and then trying to implement those boundaries.
So how is re-entry?
Re-entry is weird.
I picture it's like the little shuttle thing when it drops into the ocean, crash in the ocean.
One thing I enjoy the most when I'm still in that period of not having the apps on my phone is I find myself reaching out to friends and family more often and sending photos directly to them via text message to be like, hey, look what I'm up to, or what are you up to? And actually having those more meaningful conversations of what's going on in your life versus when I do have the apps, I'm really just seeing what they're posting to their Instagram story, and that's the update I get for the day, right?
Right.
So I think after the fact is more of continuing that meaningful connection and reaching out to people to actually to see some nice photos in person.
Well, it matters so much, Kaylee, right? And I have this chat with my students a lot too about mirror neurons, which are of course how we learn, for one, and also empathy, right? Because by actual interaction, is they don't work through a screen, very, very, very little bit. So I think we're all kind of wondering, 5 or 10 years from now, especially after the pandemic, I don't think we've even begun to know the damage of all that isolation and the extra time on social media. And Kaylee has been the ideal person to interview for this because here's the thing, you do it for your career. So you have to be obviously immersed. So that I think that adds a component of tougher for balance, really, because just because you're so immersed in it. And I'm wondering, especially if we have any parents watching and young adults watching, also grandparents. I've had grandparents involved with stuff I do here too, which is very nice.
Yeah.
When you were saying being, getting off your social media for a week, I think my students would be seeing spiders. I mean, it'd be such a hard detox, and I'm not saying that with judgment. They were born into this. This isn't their fault, right? They were born into it. So be very clear about that disclaimer. It's not a judgment call. I wonder if you can, from somebody who does have to balance it, and it takes so much sort of, I want to say calculated or premeditated, or maybe intentional is the word I'm looking for. You can't, if we're just passive, we're just gonna, life minutes will just go down the rabbit hole if we don't pay attention, right?
Yeah.
So you've had to really put stuff in place. So I'm wondering what tips, tricks, or advice you could give to parents, grandparents, and maybe the young adults themselves to what to do about social media, to sort of embrace the benefits, yet prevent decline in well-being, I guess is the best way I can put that, to be broad.
There's so many things. I don't know how to narrow it down. I think my advice would be is to figure out what boundaries work for you or whatever, whether it's your child, your grandson, whoever it may be, what is going to work for them. I think setting time frames of when you can detach is very important. So is that after school? Is it on the weekends? Is the weekend your time to really detach from social media and your phone? I find leaving my phone in a separate room, whether that's upstairs far away from me where I can't pay attention to it while I'm doing other things, on the weekends is really helpful, because then I'm not as tempted to just pick up my phone and look at it for a couple minutes before I move on to the next task.
So out of range,
out of
physically
range.
In a sock drawer in another room.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Well,
see, if you have to go out, that's the 20-second rule. That's an important one, because if it goes past that 20 seconds, we're less apt to get up and go get it.
Yeah. So I think that's really helpful. I think getting outside obviously is huge for well-being. So if you are getting outside, can you leave your phone at home? I mean, obviously, for safety reasons, sometimes you have to take your phone with you, but if you're going with friends, can just one of you take your phone and then you can leave yours at home. I also, the biggest thing on those 1 week vacations that I go on, what I really enjoy doing is at the, I come back on social media and I can do a recap of my vacation. Here, I love photos, one of the reasons I'm on social media, right? Can I share all of those photos in one post or one scenario, one series, and then I'm done with it, versus if you're always on social media, you want to have that instant share, here's what I'm doing, think it's cool, yeah, this is pretty. Whereas if you can take a step back and say, why am I posting this to social media in the moment? Does anyone really need to know that I'm here at this exact time?
Otherwise you're missing it.
Yeah, you're missing that in-person experience that you should really be internalizing instead.
Oh my God, can I just tell you this quick? This just came into my head, and had a chat with my Minecrafters about it. So I was at Stowe, where I love it. And this was a fancy 4th of July. You wouldn't think a picnic could be hoity-toity, but at Stowe it was. All the cute little red and white checker play. And they had could have been the Vermont Symphony, I don't know who it was, but it was a symphony. So as the, high-end fireworks went up, it were actually, I think it was America the Beautiful was playing in the back with absolutely exquisite. And Kayla, I cannot tell you how many people I saw with the cell phones up at the fireworks. So you're looking through the screen at the reality.
Yeah.
You're living through a lens.
Yeah, I feel fireworks and concerts are the biggest.
And who's ever gonna look at that? Yeah. And you're missing the real for the lens version. And if you send it to people okay, fireworks, it doesn't look this.
Right.
I just couldn't help thinking that. I forgive the judgment. I don't think it's judgment. It's more of an observation. I don't get it. It's not like they're a bad person for doing it.
It's this inclination that we all need to capture in the moment so we won't forget it. Meanwhile, we know most of us can remember it at least for a few years, right? And then maybe it kind of fades in our memory. But you're not going to go back and look at those fireworks photos, right? But you are going to remember who you were with. What were conversations were you having?
Right.
Did you meet someone new that day? And I think more, I think photos of the people there would be more memorable than a video of the fireworks.
And they could wait till the fireworks are over.
Exactly. Yep.
Because I tell you, Kaylee, because of course in Minecraft, one of our big things is all we have is the now, right? So only what we attenuate to, which I tell them is a sexy 14-karat word for pay attention.
Yeah.
Only what we're actually paying attention to in this moment is what makes it to long-term memory. So if we think of the time wasted living through the lens, again, it's been observationally, it just kind of saddens me.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's no judgment on this generation because they were born into it.
Mm-hmm.
It was like the smartphones were here before they were.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not their fault.
No, it's no one's fault. It's social media's fault, basically in itself, right? It's what is literally like vying for our attention. So I love to say I have a hate-love relationship with social media.
Right.
I love it because it does get to that community building, and it gets to that
Connection.
information sharing, connection. But the negatives are hard, and you need to kind of figure out how to navigate those in order for it to still be a positive experience, because there are trolls, there's negativity, right? Like that is another thing social media is known for, hiding behind a screen and making negative comments, but not taking those personally and being able to kind of find more solace in the positivity of social media, I think is the important part.
No, I think that's fantastic. And if I'm hearing you correctly, Kaylee, it sounds like, especially because, and I'm way more seasoned than you are, but you've been at this for a while. So let's say a first year or even teenager in high school, which would involve their parents, maybe even both of those might involve, or an older sibling or something, that it can't be passive. There's you gotta be like an active player in social media literacy, right? And these personal limits you're talking about, because if we're passive about it, it's all going down the rabbit hole, right? You have to get specific, make the choices, shut stuff off, put it away, or there goes your life.
Yeah, and I think you have to stay in tune with what's working and what's not, right? So if you set a boundary and it works for a few weeks, but then you find yourself finding a way around that boundary, like what else can you set in place now? Like I have gone through so many different sets of boundaries over the past few years, and you just have to figure out what's working in that exact time frame for you.
That is a really good tip, because what might work for one person, you might lock the door, but then you find yourself climbing up the trellis to get into the sock drawer.
Right,
that one didn't work. But to really find personally what works for you. And maybe, I like to set the bar to do my best in general. So if you find that time reduction maybe is too much, maybe make it a little higher for now till you can kind of come down instead of.
Yeah, definitely. And I would say, just from my specific angle of working in social media, I think my biggest fear of when I do detach or I throw my phone in the sock drawer for a few hours on a Saturday afternoon, my biggest fear is what if there is an emergency and someone is trying to reach me. And so what I'll often do, and this can go for your professional or your personal life, like if there are people that would be reaching out to you in an emergency, just shoot them a text and say, hey, for the next 4 hours, I'm offline.
That there's like a handful of people.
Yeah, a handful of small, portion of people.
Partners, kids, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And that way, it's almost for your own well-being of knowing, like, my phone's in the sock drawer, what happens if someone's trying to reach me? But then you can rewire that to say, like, if someone's trying to reach me, they know I'm not available right now, and they're not expecting a response. And maybe give them another way to reach you if there really was an emergency, if it's someone else in the house that they can call instead. That way,
this way you have peace of mind.
Peace of mind, and you're not so worried about it. Like true time off and detoxing is worry free, right? Like that's
so it's not helping you if you don't have that. No, I get that. I've done since I'm saying misplaced, not lost. When I misplace my phone so frequently that my kids know to email me.
Yeah, nice.
Because the computer. We also have a landline if I'm home, that works. But if I'm here on campus or something, because I have left it like where is it? I don't know. But that's just a few people, and I will send them a message. Mom lost your phone again. And they're like, okay, you know, but then I really don't worry about it. It's really true. Like I'm here.
Yeah.
They also know the phone number of a friend here too, and like so I can literally am like, oh, everything's fine.
Yeah. So having those like backups, I think
Yeah,
is
yeah.
really important.
I think that's super. And raising young adults can't do that too, right?
Yeah.
Teenagers just get it in place.
Yeah.
Well, fantastic, Kaylee.
Yeah.
This has been such a pleasure and just such a, I think, much needed conversation, of which there will probably, I think in general with social media, there's going to be a lot more over the next, definitely the next decade.
Oh,
Just like we were saying earlier, that 2 years was a big 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we even know, you know. But this is certainly a really good start, and also some really good tips and tricks for teenagers, young adults, parents, grandparents, whomever, to manage it a little bit better, so we don't have our well-being kind of, those valuable life minutes kind of slip right down the rabbit hole. So, well, thank you, Kaylee. Thank you for being here.
It was great. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.